It's starting to feel like a thriller heading for the spectacular finale. Along the way, action, lots of it. The long-awaited State Capture Commission of Inquiry is finally appointed. Asset freezes, rogue top cops being removed, their lieutenants arrested. Eskom gets a new board that's instructed to uproot corruption, and there are even rumors of charging the president. Have our state agencies finally found their teeth, or should that be the buffalo-like horns to gore the moral rot that we have become so accustomed to? The Politbureau is now in session. In the Politbureau today, Mpumelelo Mkhabela of UNISA's Department of Political Sciences, economist Iraj Abedian, and Sunday Times political journalist Juanita Hunter. In the past 2 weeks, we've arguably seen more movement towards arresting the state capture and corruption of our institutions than we've seen in years. Last week, President Jacob Zuma finally yielded to the demands of many, including his own political party, the ANC, and appointed the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, ordered by the Public Protector in late 2016.
This matter cannot wait any longer. It is of such serious public concern that any further delay will make the public doubt government's determination to dismantle all forms of corruption and entrench the public perception that the state has been captured by private interests for nefarious and self-enrichment purposes.
But that was just the start. This week, it emerged that the Assets Forfeiture Unit is pursuing 17 cases related to state capture and wants to attach the assets of Gupta beneficiary companies, McKinsey and Trillion, to the tune of 1.6 billion rand. It's also pursuing similar action in that controversial Fredder Dairy Farm project in the Free State. And that's not all. Also this week, we finally saw the back of rogue crime intelligence boss Richard Mdluli after nearly 7 years on paid suspension. After notorious convicted criminal turned crime intelligence officer Morris Captain KGB Chabalala was also arrested. And sweeping changes have also been ushered in with the introduction of a new board at Eskom.
We welcome the establishment of the Commission of Inquiry that State President has announced, and we're looking forward to the finalization of the terms of reference for this inquiry. But we've said that in tandem, we want to see action being taken against those who have done wrong things. And we've already started seeing the beginning processes of precisely that. The National Prosecuting Agency is beginning to move, and we welcome that. We welcome the actions that they're beginning to take, and we want them to act with urgency to increase the tempo of the actions that need to be taken. The freezing of assets is an important component of this, but we want to see much more following on the actions that they should have taken some time ago.
So let's have the conversation. Thank you so much for joining me. Mpumelelo Mkhabela, let me start with you. It feels like living in an alternate universe from where we've been the last few years. What on earth is happening? Why all of a sudden are we seeing all these moves in various centers that we've been concerned about for all these years?
Well, it's a combination of several factors. One is the change of leadership in the ANC following the elective conference in December last year. Two, this signifies the fact that you cannot bribe or corrupt everybody. There have always been good people in these state institutions that have been doing the work behind the scenes. All that they needed was an environment to enable them to actually finish off the work. The third point that we have to acknowledge is that I think that President Jacob Zuma did not, and I've always said this, does not understand the complexity of the South African political system. It is designed in such a way that not one man can get what he wants all the time.
But he did for many years.
Actually not, because the system has been working against him. He's been trying to work against the system, and the system keeps on pushing back. The judiciary was the last bulwark. Now we are seeing state organs opening up and trying to investigate these things. But we must say that I don't think this whole thing has actually unraveled to the extent that we can say that we're in a new universe. Much more needs to be done.
Kanisha, what's happening here?
I think that what Mpulelo said that about the state institutions who have always been trying to act, but the environment was not conducive. So I think now people have a lot more sort of courage to come forward and execute what they've been sort of
By people, you include people like Shaun Abrams. I mean, the Assets Forfeiture Unit is a unit of the National Prosecuting Authority. I mean, there's nothing sheepish about what we are seeing these days.
I think the reality of what we're seeing is that institutions are bigger than its heads. And so if you remove Shaun Abrams, there's hundreds of people and investigators who believe that the state has been looted and that they have a role to play in recovering some of these assets. So, Shaun Abrams and Shaun the Sheep and all of that kind of sort of banter around him is basically diverting from the fact that institutions, there was an attempt to capture institutions, but at least now we are seeing a pushback and a resistance to that. And I think that's the manifestation of what we saw this week.
Iraj, I imagine that your particular interest has to do with the implications of all of this in the economy. I saw you laughing when we were listening to Cyril Ramaphosa talking about the National Prosecuting Authority beginning to move. But why is it even significant that Eskom gets a new board, and the board and the way that it's composed, and all of this coming within the context of everything else that we have seen?
I think Eskom is important, and the actions taken yesterday from two fronts. One is Eskom is central to the revival of the South African economy, given the centrality of energy. Whatever policies you want to have, you've got to have credible, competitive, and reliable access to energy. We have had anything but that since 2009. So that's an important signal to the market that we're getting ready to provide that. You get your act together to invest. The second important service is that Eskom has been the heart of corruption and state capture. Under the guise of ministerial cover, presidential cover, and executive cover within Eskom. We really haven't had anything like that in modern history. We can have corrupt people here and there, but to have the president covering the minister covering the board covering the executives, and all of them in cahoot to extract and do nothing else. Now, appointing a new board under credible people with a very specific mandate, go and clean up, begin with the Koko and Anaj Singh, is a signal which is very credible. If these people are put behind bars, and then if the board and the new acting CEO, who again is a very credible individual in the market knows Phakamani Khadebe very well. And that in the next 2 months could give a turn or reversal of negative expectation and begin investor confidence in the economy.
So are we not, Iraj, let me stick with you. Are we not giving Cyril Ramaphosa more credit than he deserves here? Could it be that actually President Jacob Zuma is the reason we are seeing these appointments? He's finally come to the point where he says, actually, I'm the state president, I'm the country president, and I will make sure that these institutions are fixed in line with what my organization says. So perhaps the argument that he's a ceremonial president in a way is flawed.
No, I think if that was the case, he would have made the announcement yesterday. If that was the case, he would have come out and said exactly what you wish him to do, and his ministers would be sitting by his side, and he would have put in the marching orders for the new board members. He was not even there. Up to today, he has not even acknowledged that there is a change. So I think for all practical purposes, he has been completely sidelined. And I think, as Mpulelo mentioned, he has not shown over the past decade that he has an understanding of the complexity of a diversified economy like South Africa.
Kanita, how significant is of the many things that have happened? And I mean, I was joking last night that we can't even turn our attention away from the news anymore because you don't know what next. Of all the things that have happened, the State Capture Commission of Inquiry being finally appointed by the President, who tried to sort of stall and appeal, etc. How significant was that? And also, do you see that as a byproduct of Cyril Ramaphosa and the new ANC leadership asserting themselves?
I think that was the first time that we saw that there's a new sheriff in town, and I think that the Commission of Inquiry and the announcement of it, we later learned that it was not done voluntarily. It was done, at the sort of suggestion and insistence of the new ANC president, Cyril Ramaphosa. And, we later found out that, after that meeting last week, Sunday, on Monday, the president then conceded and wrote to the Chief Justice, and the next day he announced the Commission of Inquiry. The terms of reference is where is what we are really looking forward to, because there's all sort of noise around it. And I think that if there's a very specified terms of reference, which is directly giving a mandate to an entire commission to investigate him and his failures and his role in state capture, that's essentially what the recommendation of the public protector was. I don't think that sits well with him. And so it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. But at the same time, you see that what happened with the NPA and the NDPP, in that the deputy president seemed to have, suggested that he will accept the undertakings of the court or the rulings of the court, and that he will step in if necessary. And then you saw the president sort of defying that and saying, no, I'm taking this to the Constitutional Court. And then the deputy president of the state coming in and saying, I will abide with whatever the court then says.
But it's all unraveling a bit fast, guys. I mean, we're even talking about the whole situation where witnesses, more than 200 witnesses are being identified for a possible Jacob Zuma corruption trial. The NPA is on the move. What does this say about the shift of power from President Jacob Zuma and Mpumelelo? Can we even reach that conclusion, or are we getting ahead of ourselves?
Yeah, well, it says a lot. I mean, he has lost, first of all, he has lost the power of authority to actually effect any government decisions or take any government decisions, including appointments. Now he has to report to Cyril Ramaphosa, who's now head of the ANC, before he can make any changes, including cabinet changes. We'll recall that in the last cabinet reshuffle, Cyril Ramaphosa and some members of the top six, Willem Kiza back then and Gwede Mantashe, went public when he reshuffled cabinet and said, we're not happy with this. Imagine what would happen now if, as president of the country, he decides, as is his right to do so, to change cabinet. He won't be able to do that without consulting Cyril Ramaphosa now. So you
underestimate Jacob.
So no, he won't. So his power of authority has been actually tampered with. The other thing that he has lost long time ago, because he has all along had a power of authority based on the power of the office. Now he has lost it. Now, what he had lost long time ago already is the legitimacy. For people to trust and actually go according to your wishes, you need to have some credibility, some legitimacy. That he has lost long time ago because people have understood that whatever decisions he takes them in his own interest, not in the interest of the party or the country.
Let's pause for a moment and take a quick break, and we'll continue our discussion after this short break.